G'day mates, welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video, I'm going to be recapping a whole bunch of the big team swaps we've seen in every major region. I do normally wait a few more weeks to do these, but since we have Cash Cups coming back next week and an FNCS in less than a month, I just want to talk about the new big teams that are 100% confirmed split and some of the people they might be playing in with. Because we potentially have Mongraal, Mitr0, and Tayson back together. We have Reet and Wavyjacob going back together. We have Degen Aegis Skittles splitting. Like, we have some really big teams to cover in pretty much every single region. I know Mongraal, Mitr0, Tayson is probably going to be the big one that most people care about, but I'm going to do NA East first, and then I'm going to talk about EU. And before I get to the Mongraal, Mitr0, Tayson, I'm not basing this off nothing. They were actually playing scrims together, so I'm excited to take a look at that. But NA East, we have to talk about pretty much a whole bunch of really big teams that split. We have Colazo, D-Roller, and Class who've split after winning week 2 of the qualifiers and then having an unfortunate run during their heats, not making it into grand finals. It looks like that was enough for this team to split, which is pretty disappointing because I really like this team, and I think it was just heats. There was a few things that went wrong that didn't really work for them. We know in the reboot round, I already made the video talking about it, how there was a fair bit of drama around the Snowmando getting eliminated, so they couldn't get the snowball launcher. There was a fair bit of drama there, but ultimately, I really like this team, but at the same time, they're phenomenal guys, they're phenomenal players. I'm sure there's no bad blood, and they'll find good teams. I mean, Colazo's already now made a tweet saying he's looking for one more with Scrubs, and now I really like this. I think this is awesome. If you guys don't know who Scrubs is, if you only follow competitive Fortnite, you might not have heard as much about him. Honestly, he kind of came out of nowhere in competitive scene. He won a solo Cash Cup, started dominating on the back of being arguably, or I should say probably unarguably, one of, if not the best Zone Wars players in the world. But unlike most creative mech demons, Scrubs really does have a brain for competitive. I was watching him play. He is very solid. So I would love to see Colazo, Scrubs, and then maybe one more fragger. I know Colazo wants to pick up a mouse and keyboard player. He doesn't want to play with 2 controller players again, as he believes it's going to cause issues for getting Storm Surge, which is an interesting take. And honestly, I was talking about this on stream after looking at how many controller players actually placed like top 5 and top 10 in FNCS finals. It was very heavily skewed towards mouse and keyboard. So whatever you want to say about controller players, aim assist, movement, W king, when it comes down to grand finals, mouse and keyboard really seems to come out on top. So I like that choice. Xoonies, Npen, and Aspex splitting up is one that I'm a little bit surprised about. They performed insanely well, getting a top 5 in the last FNCS Grand Final. Unfortunately, this time around, they didn't really crack even top 15, so looks like a bit of a struggle season as far as the Grand Finals went, and I think that was enough for them to split up, so really sad to see from a team that I did really like. I haven't seen too much from them about who they're going to be playing with. Don't really know where they'll end up, but phenomenal players, and I guess things just didn't work out. Kind of similar story for XMB, Ved, and Leo. If you guys don't know, XMB's team was one of the dark horses that I picked to potentially do really well in grand finals. They fell short. Don't know if it was the pressure, if it was the game plan. XMB was not having a good time during the finals, tweeting out so many times that he wanted to break things. He hates this game. He doesn't want to play. Looks like things just didn't work. They lost their nerve, and that's going to be the biggest issue with that team. It's a very young team. I mean, if you watch them, you can tell in end games, things was very chaotic. They were screaming, they were yelling, they were going crazy, but ultimately I think they are 3 phenomenal players. I just think I agree with this choice. With different teams, I think they'll perform better. XMB, like I said, in my opinion, is one of the most underrated IGLs in NA East. I feel like if a couple of older players or a bit more chill players give them a chance, their end games will be insane. So I have high hopes for them, and I wasn't too surprised to see them split, but I'm a little bit sad. They were a fan favorite for me. Moving on to a team that I am so insanely excited to see, we have Nickmercs, SypherPK announcing that their trio third is going to be Natehill. So we have the OG Boomer Squad, and I know I feel bad calling them that, but I'm sorry. I mean that with full pride. I'm so excited to see 3 OG guys from back in the skirmish days all playing together, and genuinely, if this trio grinds together, I think they have a decent chance of playing well. I'm not going to say I think they can win FNCS, but I think finals is possible if they all start playing together, and I think Natehill's a good fit for this team. It's going to make great content. They stay calm. The vibes are going to be high. They all have good competitive experience. Natehill probably falling on more of the experience side now, especially last season playing with Arab as well. Definitely staying up to date with the competitive meta. But if these guys get into scrimming together and playing it seriously, I'm so excited to see them. If nothing else, you just know it's going to be pure content, even if they don't perform really well. Nickmercs and SypherPK have been hard grinding Duo Arena over the last few days since the the seasons drop, so they're only going to improve. And if you watch SypherPK from the first tournament last season to the last tournament, same with Nickmercs, they both improved so much. I'm really excited to see how this team goes. And I mean, like I said, who didn't want to see Natehill, SypherPK, and Nickmercs get back together? Talking about the OG guys, I got to talk about how Chap, Threats, and Dukez have split up. People not really surprised by this. They didn't perform at all well in the finals. I mean, I know that's because they were getting contested by Bully, Osp, and Frist, but still a really, really underwhelming performance. That's the first time in history Chap has made an FNCS finals and not got top 10. I mean, think back to the Defend the Farm era against Arab when it was all the Liquid boys going up against Arab. They still managed to get top 10. I know that's in squads, so there's less teams, but that was Chap's by far worst performance in an FNCS finals. I think no one's surprised to see them splitting up. They were a good team. I had a really high hopes for them towards the end, coming into heats and the finals. They were looking so strong and so improved, but when it came down to it, they just didn't win their spawn fights. And when they did win the spawn fight, or they made it off spawn, they just didn't pick up enough points. So as far as who they're going to play with, it's going to be interesting to see. Chap currently is playing Valorant with Symphony all day for the last few days. He hasn't really played the new season at all. I'm not too panicked though. Chap tends to do that. I mean, before this last FNCS, I think he was playing a whole bunch of Rust, so it's not weird to see Chap playing another game, but he always seems to find either two insanely underrated players out of nowhere and just builds them up, or because of his pedigree, because he's been around for so long, he does attract really, really good players. So I'm not scared to see who Chap ends up with, but I mean, it's pretty fair to see they split up. We saw a glimmer of hope right at the very end of FNCS that the XET trio, AV, Shark, and Knight was coming back. They absolutely popped off in heats. Everyone got super hyped. And then it all fell apart in finals. They couldn't find a solid drop spot. Things weren't working. Day 2, they started dropping on a bunch of different teams around the map and just really couldn't bring it together. So it really was a very sad ending to a sad FNCS for a team that the FNCS before was one of the big talking points coming into finals. Everyone just thinking maybe they underperformed in finals. Maybe it just, you know, it was a bad weekend. But unfortunately, this most previous FNCS did prove that this team just isn't working. And it looks like they've split as well. One of the biggest new teams to actually form on NA East that's looking really solid and has announced is Ceice, Scoped, and Tragix. Now, that's kind of an interesting one as well. Ceice, again, has always been struggling to find a solid team. He bounces around a lot. He found a lot of success at the end of FNCS, made it into grand finals. Everyone was really, really surprised to see Animal back as well. 2 OGs from like World Cup era, but on finals, they didn't really show up. They didn't perform. I mean, the same story kind of goes for Scoped and Tragix as well. Looks like they've dropped Haz as their IGL and they're picking up Ceice. So I'm really excited to see how this team goes. I mean, Tragix is becoming a fan favorite for me because, man, as long as one of those guys stream like Scope does for everything, he's so fun to watch. He's literally got the NAE CRR comms just screaming everything, having like so much passion towards it. So I'm looking forward to see how this team goes. I'd love to see Ceice step up. I think Ceice has some of the best fighting mechanics for someone who would consider themselves an IGL. I just really want to see Ceice just double, triple down on going hard IGL, hitting the VODs. I know he's doing a bunch of educational YouTube content, so mini shout out to Ceice. Go check him out if you want to see some of the content he's making. So looks like he's really focusing on the theoretical side of the game. So I'd love to see him step up, really kind of put that towards stack games. And yeah, I want to see this team pop off. I've been cheering for Scope for so many seasons now. I know he has the potential to be one of the best in the region again. Just needs to find the right team, needs to find his groove, and I think he'll pop off. I'm sure there's some other teams, and again, if I've forgotten any or there's some information I've left out, I'm trying my best to cover this. I'm just really going off what we 100% know, not just rumors, unless I tell you that this isn't the best evidence for it. So if I've missed anything on NA East, I'm sorry, but I'm going to move on to EU because there's some big ones, and obviously the biggest being Mongraal, Mitr0, Tayson. Now, what evidence do we actually have for this? Well, they were playing scrims together this morning, and they went up against Chapix team, and they did really, really well. Let me show you the clip.
Careful, the roof, not yours, bro. Roof.
Not there. Yeah.
What are these kids doing?
What's you? Jumping in my box. I'm sure.
Thinking.
Go on.
Hello, man.
Don't go for play, don't go for play, trust me.
What's this guy hiding here? Hiding.
Dead!
Nice. Coming up.
Get me! Fuck!
Dead!
Nice! Look, players.
I'm left. Here.
Here, I'm in.
This one.
Hey, what do you want me?
Get down. I have nothing.
He's one, I can kill him.
I have nothing, bro. The team's coming.
No, I'm on. Oh my god, man. He's taking makeshift shotgun, bro. He's one, man.
Sure. second. You got it, you got it, you got it. He's coming, he's coming, he's coming, he's coming. Shoot him.
Get the space, get the space. Oh, that's not space, bro. Get a card, this dude. Man, like,
That's the worst players I've ever seen in my life.
who is that? I won't know who is that.
It's-
Who it is.
That's Mongraal.
No, that's Mongraal, bro.
It is, it is.
Try to kill him. What is he doing, man? He's just gonna wait on the zone or what?
Mm-hmm. They don't care.
How does he know? How does he know?
Like,
Fucking retards,
if
man.
he's watching your stream, obviously.
He is.
There's a few things I need to clear up about that clip before, you know, Hen's team gets way too much hate. So they didn't know it was Mongraal, Mitr0 and Tayson at the start. Before they started smack talking, they're obviously upset because it's a very, very aggressive push to take, especially in scrims. That's why they're getting so frustrated. So I don't want a whole bunch of hate going out to Chapix team now because they were insulting Mongraal, Mitr0 and Tayson. But I mean, an aggressive push, but Mongraal basically just 1v3'd the FNCS champions. I know he had the purple pump, but I mean, they had a good loadout too. And I'm not going to try and say, oh, Mongraal, Mitr0 and Tayson, they're so much better than the FNCS champions. I know it was just one fight, but it's so exciting to see Mongraal, Mitr0 and Tayson back. And it's especially exciting seeing what Mongraal can still do with a purple pump in his hand. I mean, I don't know if this team is going to stick together. I don't want to try and pretend this is 100% confirmed. This is the team, but they are playing scrims together right now. They haven't made any official announcement. And I mean, that's already more scrims than what Mongraal and Mitr0 played all of last season. So looks like they're happy the pump is back. I really would like to see this team work. That technically was the FNCS champions before versus the FNCS champions now, which is already just so exciting to see. Now, the main thing that makes me think this might be true is because we have kind of had some words about Tayson's team splitting up. So it looks like he is looking for a team. So I don't know. I hope this is true though. One of the main indicators that this very likely could be true is because we do look like we have what is Savage's next team, and he's playing with Endretta and Refsgard. So it looks like Savage replacing Scram. Endretta and Refsgard had a good FNCS. They were triple and quadruple contested at Steamy in the finals. So I don't think their finals performance is anything to go off, but it looks like they might be playing together as well. Now, I can't 100% confirm this. I first got tipped off to this by Destiny Jesus, who announced that. I DM'd him. He said, look, I'm pretty sure they're playing scrims right now. A whole bunch of people in the comments on my tweet were saying they're playing in scrims together. So I haven't been able to find any footage of this or anything to go off from this. I'm just putting it out there because I've got it from some decently reliable sources. If it's not true and if it was just for fun, again, this is one of the ones, don't take my word on it. I'm not 100% sure, but it does make sense, right? People have been kind of teasing out that Tayson, Savage, and iDrop are going to split anyway. Tayson's now playing with Mongraal and Mitr0, Savage playing with Endretta and Refsgard. It makes sense. There's been some other big EU notable teams split. It looks like Stompy Pink and Trulex have split, and it looks like Queasy has split with Paco and Raxo, but at the same time, I'm not entirely sure where these teams have landed. People are talking that Queasy and Trulex have now formed, and they're looking for a second as well, so I don't really know what's happened to the rest of the players. EU for me is always so much harder to figure out because they're not as public about it on Twitter, and there are scrims going on, but a lot of them don't play in it, so if there are any other big EU teams or any big NA teams and changes that have happened, let me know in the comments section down below. I often read a bunch of your guys' stuff, and if I can find what you're talking about, I always love to pin and update the comments. So again, look in the comment section below after this. Usually my videos go live in the morning. Once I wake up, I try to update anything I got wrong or put new stuff in there. So feel free to let me know. But those are the two massive EU teams I wanted to talk about. The last big one is looking like we have Reet and Wavyjacob getting back together. As for their third, again on my tweet, Rich Homie Quinn responded and said that they might potentially be teaming. I got super excited. Quinn's my boy. I love the look of that team. I think it would be heaps of fun, but obviously Quinn did just get top 3 in the FNCS finals in NA West. He has a guaranteed qual spot to the next one. His teammates are still good. I think it was more of a meme. I DM'd him. He said, yeah, nah. He's like, it would be cool, but I think I'm sticking with my team anyway. So it looks like we have Reet, Wavyjacob, and a few people are talking about Turtle Tavern, which again, I really, really like. But the main part about that team that I'm so happy to see is just Wavyjacob and Reet back together. They split apart. They both had insane success after they first split, but then in the FNCS finals, things really came unstuck. Both teams didn't perform insanely well, so seeing them back together would be phenomenal. I'm sad to see that it looks like they're dropping Favs either way, because I really like Favs as a player. I know Reet and Wavyjacob heavily rate him as a player, so maybe it's just a dynamic issue there. Maybe they just want to try something fresh, but I love seeing Reet and Wavyjacob back together. All right, guys, that does it for another video. I want to make sure I'm throwing in these comp updates, not just all guide videos. It's a new season, so I'm mixing up, trying a little bit of everything just because I don't have enough content to do a competitive news video every day. Otherwise, I'd be pulling a whole bunch of stuff that isn't real and just, you know, it'd be stretched out. So right now, I'm going to try and mix it up a little bit. We have Cash Cup starting next week. We have Elite Scrims kicking off next week. We've got Scrims going on at the moment, so I'll try to put in as many update videos as I can, but I'd rather condense all what we know, not just rumors, into one good video, rather than trying to make videos and spread it out on just hearsay. So if you liked today's video, please chuck a like on it. Again, let me know in the comment section down below any other big team changes you've seen or heard about. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. It would mean the world to me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.